The reason I wanted to have Marcus Nelson, co-founder of UserVoice, on to talk about the Web 2010, or what the state of the 2010 web is because you're a small startup that not everybody's heard of. You know,
Right.
You're not Facebook
No.
or Microsoft or Google or anything like that. Two, you're here in the cool startup world of Santa Cruz, which
Yeah.
is not, South San Francisco.
Right, exactly.
But three, you're building a startup that helps get people's opinions into companies, right? About where they should go. So first of all, who are you?
Marcus Nelson, and I'm originally from Wisconsin, moved out here with UserVoice about a year ago, maybe 9 months ago, something like that.
Yeah. And what's your background? Where you, before we get
my background is building tools. I'm a front-end designer that came in with design skills. I did build social networks. I did a social media campaign for reproductive health care for people who work in that industry. Also worked for starting actually, this is how I came to Santa Cruz. I was working on a hyper-local citizen journalism project. And a friend of mine who's from here actually had some friends that wanted to do a similar thing, and so we just kind of collaborated on it and got it initially off the ground, and then everybody got busy. But that's actually what first got me to Santa Cruz. Yeah.
Very cool. And where are we, the other part of that?
Oh, we're in the physical space?
Yeah.
We're in NextSpace. NextSpace is a co-working space that was started in October of last year.
Yeah.
The initiation of it had everything to do with just finding a good place where people could kind of catalyze ideas and collaborate, and knowing that there's bigger ideas outside the room instead of just your small little company. This way we can have, I don't know exactly how many companies there are. There's probably maybe 30 companies that are represented here, and they all can get together and gather around the water cooler and talk around ideas.
And there's some cool companies. There's 12 Seconds
12
TV
Seconds is here.
UserVoice. A lot of people on Twitter and on FriendFeed were going, "Oh, UserVoice is a really cool company.
Yeah.
I like them a lot."
Yeah.
You're just across the hill from Silicon Valley, and about 2 hours from San Francisco.
About an hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you're not in San Francisco, so does that help you or hurt you?
It helps a lot because we can be focused. The one downside about being in San Francisco is that there's just stuff going on all the time. Now that's also a plus because I mean, if you're a startup and you need exposure, that's great. With our tool, what's helped is that our tool is always out in front of people, so people see it whether it's on a Twitter app or some other startup that they're using. So the exposure is one thing, but the thing that we need to do is, because we're small, we had no funding, we just need to get going.
Yeah.
And by being in Santa Cruz, not having the distraction, we can kind of get together, put together a meal, go home, get a barbecue, and not have to worry about parties and what's the next meetup.
Yeah.
And we can just get our ideas going. Another interesting fact about us is that we have 4 guys all living on one piece of property.
Yeah.
So in our house is my wife and I, and my wife does all of our books and takes care of front-end sales, and our 2 kids. And then we have a guest house in the back where Scott and Richard stay, and what we do is we just put together ideas. I mean, we're constantly, the work never stops. And so we're very capital efficient because all of our bills are shared, and we're very disciplined in getting projects going because it's, as Rich would call it, the ABCs, always be coding.
Yeah.
So,
always be coding.
Yes. So we actually look like a much bigger company, but it's because we're always getting stuff going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the first week of Building 43, we have a theme, which is the state of the 2010 web, because one of the things that's driving us is we're seeing all these websites that, you look at an average pizza shop's website or a bike shop or a bike manufacturing company, any kind of company. There's a lot of them that don't even have websites, right? Which is sort of sad.
Yeah.
But even if they have a website, it looked like it was designed for 1994. And you guys are designing, well, we just saw the new widget that's coming out from UserVoice that's something different, right? And I'm trying to get a sense of what is the 2010 web and why should businesses care about it, people and businesses?
Well, the one thing about what we're doing is that we're allowing companies to get closer to their consumers, right? And as the web is growing and we have this kind of breakneck speed, and everyone's focusing on all the new products and all the gee whiz type stuff, and oftentimes it's really the simple things. It's the old-fashioned way of doing business. It's like, how do we take care of customers? right? What do our customers need? And build that first. And that's where we kind of come in and we help these, especially starting companies or companies that are really entrenched and they're looking for new ways of kind of getting outside of the box. And this gives them a tool to go out, get those ideas, and build the stuff that people are actually going to want and use and need and love.
Yeah.
And then they become your advocates because now they feel validated. They feel like, oh my gosh, this company cares about what I'm saying. And then they go out and tell their friends, and then that becomes your new way of marketing.
Yeah. If you were to look at some random business like O'Neill's Surf Shops right across the street, I haven't been their website in a while. How would you decide whether they were a 2010 website or a 1994 website or somewhere in the middle? What are the attributes that a business's website needs today to be seen as a modern website?
Well, a modern website, good question. What is a modern website? I go back to the same things. You hear Gary Vaynerchuk going on, you hear Zappos going on, all about getting closer to your customers. And it's not a new theme. It's tried and true. It's been around for ages. And whether or not you have the best gee-whiz factor of your website, meaning that it's got Ajax and it's fully integrated with XYZ component, having a great website and having it interactive is one thing. It's another thing, does the website generate sales? Yeah. Does the website get me closer to my customers and make them feel like we are listening and that we want what they want? It's really old-fashioned taking care of people's needs. Yeah. If I have money, I'm going to be happy to give it to you if you can solve my problem. I have this wetsuit that I need. Yeah. I don't have a wetsuit. The water, I was just out there last weekend, the water was 53 degrees. Okay, now I wasn't swimming, but I mean, that's what the board said. So 53 degrees. My need is I need a wetsuit. If I need a wetsuit, not a wetsuit, a wetsuit, and I have to pay money for it, I want to get good value. Yeah. So I can go to the website and I can look and see, oh, there's this great array, but maybe they don't have something that hits my price point or features in the wetsuit that I don't particularly need. Is there another wetsuit? It's just finding out what the need is, and then people are happy to pay for it.
Yeah. One attribute, because you mentioned a couple of companies like Zappos, we actually visited Zappos as part of this project of finding out what the state of the 2010 web is. Right. One, they have real people on their website.
Yes.
And they have interactivity where you can talk with those people.
Yes, engage. Yeah, crazy.
It's if you go to Best Buy's website, you see very few people on it, which is one way in my mind I start putting them into two separate camps. Right. One, Amazon has a lot of people. You can see reviews. You can I can write a review there. Right. One site feels cold and it doesn't have real people on it and doesn't have a lot of interactivity. Right. What other kinds of things are you noticing about the 2010 web that's going on? You're a coder, right?
I used to be. I haven't touched code for a while. The blog I do a little bit, but on the actual code I don't touch it all anymore.
But who were we just talking about?
That's Richard. Yeah. Richard's our CEO and co-founder.
And he's in San Francisco, and he was showing us a new widget, and he's using terms like JSON and jQuery. Are those things that modern web developer needs to know, but does a business person, a guy who runs a pizza shop, does he need to know what that means?
Well, it's all about reducing friction, right? Yeah. So the tools, we can throw down the names and talk about how sexy they are, but really it's can you reduce the friction of a user's involvement with your activity, whether it's a website, whether it's an application, whether it's a service. It's about making it easier for somebody to get what they want. They came here for a reason. Hook them up with what they need so they can get on their merry way. Yeah. And that's what's going to create the next web. How do we make the interaction, first of all, easy? Second of all, make it frictionless. There's no headaches in it. And then make it a good experience so that when they go home, they want to talk about it and tell their friends. Yeah. So it's making that impression.
The other thing I'm noticing about the modern web is a lot of its little components, like we call them widgets in the industry, right? So you can copy a piece of JavaScript code and put it on your blog, and now all of a sudden you have a user voice component. Are you seeing that as a trend? That obviously you are because you're investing in it, right?
Yes, exactly. We are finding that to be a huge trend right now, that people don't want to continue building new technology. And even big companies that, I could say their name, you say, oh, I know who that is. And we offer a white label service, right, where you can duplicate our services within your own environment. It looks, feels just like your stuff, but nobody's the wiser that it's user voice powering it. And there's not just us, there's other companies that are doing these same things where we're integrating and providing a service to these other companies, but they're selling it as their own product because they don't want to be responsible for the technology.
Yeah.
And it's just a great way of doing business.
Yeah. So what is user voice doing? Because we've been talking about it a little bit. What is it that component does for a business or a
Well, user voice creates a way of democratizing ideas. So somebody has an idea, they can come in and they say, gosh, this is great. I wish it could do X. Like when the iPhone first came out, I wish it could copy paste. Well, where are you going to say that? Well, you can blog it out, you can,
Twitter.
spout off on Twitter or something like that, but it never really gets aggregated, right? So what user voice does is it gives a destination where everybody can kind of come together. You can brand it, make it your own look and feel, integrate it with your profiles so that as users come in, it's using their username, their avatar, everything comes in, and they can sound off on their ideas. Then other people come in, they start typing their ideas. The service immediately starts searching through the keywords, and they say, oh, well, this idea is already here. Would you like to add a vote to this or make a comment? And so now the user can say, either I can join that conversation or I can create my own. And so they can create a new idea if it's not already in there some way. We're trying to reduce the duplication by doing that search. But once they come in and they add their idea, they can throw down votes. They can do 1 to 3 votes. So if they're really passionate about it, they can spend 3 votes. And really the votes become that currency. So if you're passionate, you're spending 3 votes, and the administration can come in there. They can also divide out how many votes people are coming. They can say, wow, this idea is really trending. Not only are there a lot of votes, but a lot of people are using 2 and 3 votes. They really, really want this. And now it gives you a way of not only just aggregating the idea, but now you can actually determine, okay, what's the need? There's a lot of people that want this, so now you've got this passion, and then you can also find out who the influencers are. So based on this interaction over time, these people you can pull out and segregate them and say, wow, this is our best amount of users. Take your top 100, your top 500 users, put them in their own form and throw new ideas at them and say, hey, what do you think of this? And now you're validating their involvement.
So on building 43, I could build a user voice page. Mm-hmm. I could say, who should we interview next about the 2010 web, right?
That's right.
And people could just go to that forum and say, well, I want to hear, Larry Page from Google,
yeah.
Or I want to hear,
Larry
Steve Ballmer
Ellison
from Microsoft, or
right.
whoever, right?
Yeah.
And then other people could vote. Can they vote up or down?
Could they
say,
only
Steve
vote
Ballmer?
up.
Okay.
They can only vote up. So that's another way that we kind of differentiate ourselves. We're not really concerned with what you don't want. If there's something you didn't want, that's great. But tell us what you do want. Be productive. Let's move the conversation forward.
Okay.
And by telling people what they don't want or getting into these kind of vote up, vote down, it basically creates an environment where people are kind of trying to game against each other. And that's really not, in the big picture, that's not really helping the conversation. We want to get people talking about what they do want, be involved in the ideas that are actually trending instead of trying to fight everything. And it just makes for a negative environment when you're just constantly trying to bicker against each other.
One of the other attributes of the 2010 web is you no longer can expect the customers to come to you, mm-hmm. or the people to come to a central portal or whatever.
Right.
They're all over the place, right?
That's right.
They're some are in Facebook, some are in Twitter, some are in FriendFeed, some are on Flickr, some are in FM.
Wherever,
FM.
yeah.
I mean, they're all over the place, right?
That's right.
So you got to go out to them, and you got to be decentralized.
Yes.
How does user voice report to all those places what's going on the database?
Well, we're building in social tools so that you can actually broadcast and disseminate this information. So, like the typical little blog post where it's a tweet this. We're going to be building in those kind of tools into user voice where people can kind of promote their ideas, get involvement, get conversation going about these ideas. That's good. That's dialogue. We want dialogue. Dialogue's good. The other parts is trying to get that information back. So we are working with another company. We're talking about finding other ways to build tools. So we are working with another company to actually furnish a back-end solution for us where you can actually be listening to different conversations, and that'll all be within the administration console. And I think there's going to be a lot of companies that find that really sexy, where they can have this one destination on their own website that's branded, white labeled, feels like their stuff, but then they can log in on the backside, connect with their audience, and see what the audience is doing off the page, all in one place. That's pretty cool.
Another attribute of the 2010 web is mobile. You know, iPhone apps are going crazy. In fact, there's a few being developed here in this building.
That's right.
What's user voice? What's your view of the mobile web, and how is user voice playing there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be huge. We have a couple of different ideas, and the one that we're working on right now is just building in a simple feedback solution that somebody who's developing either an iPhone app or an Android app can just drop right into their solution. So instead of having to come off the page, go to another place, type in whatever it is that you're doing, we don't want to disrupt that. We want to be able to get that feedback directly at the moment where they're like, oh, this is really bugging me, how do I fix this? And so then they can add their feedback and it goes right in through the system, and to the user, they've never even left the environment.
Now, another attribute is multimedia, because I can now use my phone to stream video over the internet and take pictures and do all sorts of stuff like that. Are we going to be able to go over to O'Neill's, and if they had a user voice, can we take a picture and go, this surfboard really bugs me, can you make it do this? Or can you put a design like this on this board?
I can neither confirm nor deny that something is in the works.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes.
Yeah.
Because if you hated that idea, you would say absolutely, definitely not.
No, we are trying to work on every angle where we can get companies closer to their customers.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to tell us about what you're noticing being here in Santa Cruz with a bunch of cool companies that are trying to make something happen in the 2010 web? And for businesses like those across the street, Main Street businesses, what would you be telling them?
You know, the one thing is that the idea that Silicon Valley and San Francisco are the only places where things happen, while that is totally true and it's always going to be true, there are exceptions.
To an extent.
Yes,
I mean,
to an
if you go to
extent,
Tel
yes.
Aviv, there's a lot of stuff happening.
Well, that's actually what I was going to say,
Yeah.
is that technology is showing us that you don't have to be there to be able to prove things.
Yeah.
And yes, it's good that we're close by, and I think you're going to see a trend, things like Techstars and you know, Y Combinator being able to prove that you can do these in other communities. I think you're going to see that happening more and more, where we're incubating these startups. You know, will they always be able to survive outside of the Mecca? I don't know. That's the future still going to, you know, be there to prove. But I think you can get started outside, and then at some point, you know, get absorbed into the greater Silicon Valley community. I think Santa Cruz, you know, if we were just to put one place into that little spectrum, Santa Cruz has a very unique environment in that a lot of the people who were settled in Santa Cruz actually made their fortunes over the hills back in the 90s and early part of this decade. And now they've come here, they're retired, there's a massive amount of knowledge and experience that's already here. The amount of mind share that's actually going over the hill daily to go work for these other companies that reside here, there's a perfect opportunity here, and I know the local government is trying to work on other ways to incentivize it and make it just a great place to get started. Family friendly, good education system. They've got a lot of pluses. It's just going to need some tweaking.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time.
Thank you.
Sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks.